This is a very good laptop that is very capable of AAA gaming at high settings. It was packaged well with seals to prevent any kind of tampering during shipping. Included was a very basic but free neoprene sleeve for the laptop. There are no straps or pouches, but it is soft and will protect the laptop during travel better than if it were left exposed. But I would still suggest getting a carrying case or a backpack if you do plan on being portable with this. Also included was an HDD upgrade cable and screws in case you want to add your own 2.5 drive to the empty bay on the motherboard. The 1080p frame is 144Hz. IPS display looks great and also has great viewing angles. If you've never used a 144Hz panel before, you can never go back to 60Hz monitors for gaming again. 144Hz ruined my last gaming laptop because the difference is extremely noticeable in general. It feels smoother when you move in games compared to 60Hz panels. The webcam is passable at 720p. It's fine for chatting with friends or Zoom meetings, but not recommended for anything beyond that. It also cannot work with Windows Hello. The 10th General Intel i7-1750H6 Core 26GHz base clock speed processor is very efficient, powerful, and has decent integrated graphics, which the laptop will prefer to use when you aren't playing games or doing any kind of intensive work that would require more GPU power. There's a lot of value in this laptop given that this CPU alone is sold for, and the laptop also has an RTX 2066 GB. The RTX is the newest architecture that has the ability to do ray tracing. If you don't know what that is, it's realistic lighting effects that developers are putting into games now, but you need a card that has the ability to process it, or you can take advantage of the feature. The RTX 2060 GPU is very capable. My average FPS with very high settings on Assassin's Creed Odyssey was 70. In GTA V on high settings, it was 115. Interestingly, this laptop has a button called Turbo. Now, there's no overt explanation for what it does when you take the laptop out of the box and don't read the manual, but it essentially overclocks the GPU for you and kicks the fans into hyperdrive to compensate for the extra heat involved with overclocking it. In terms of performance, on the two games I tested the FPS on, it gave me an average of a 10 FPS increase. It is noisy though when the fans are on full blast. I have to give credit to the fans, which Acer advertises as 4th General Raw Blade 3D technology, and the thermal management of this design, because even when the CPU and GPU are being stressed, the laptop stays at a reasonable temperature, and by that I mean you can game with it on your laptop while sitting down without it becoming too uncomfortable. Aside from the turbo button, there's also a predator button on the keyboard. Pressing this opens an application that shows you the current temperatures of CPU/GPU and even ambient temperature inside the laptop itself. Overall, you can customize your lighting profile here. Overclock your GPU with 3 speeds: normal, fast, extreme, and you can set your fan speeds to a custom setting or leave it on automatic. Because Acer has this application that controls these settings from us, the UEFI BIOS is pretty sparse. You can't customize voltages or do any kind of manual overclocking, but since the application does all that for you, and many gamers don't overclock their system because they think it might be too complicated or risky, this makes it easy to do so with the simple click of the turbo button or drop-down menus in the application. Speaking of the BIOS, you're going to want to go onto its spam F2 when the laptop is powering on, and disable the annoying post sound. By default, when you turn the laptop on, it plays a sound file that sounds like a jet engine firing up for some reason. I turned it off because I found it incredibly annoying, but I'm thankful the option to do that existed in the BIOS. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot of customization to do in the BIOS. It also has Wi-Fi 6. It comes with 16 GB of RAM to 8 GB, but the DIMMs are user serviceable, so you can put 32 GB to 16 GB if you wanted to with no issues. The OS comes pre-configured somewhat, using performance metrics for the OS, such as not using the arrow theme. There is some bloatware which I recommend removing. In terms of build quality, this is where the laptop starts to show its low price point. The entire laptop is made out of plastic, and it flexes really easily, especially the panel. The plastic trackpad is just okay. It will function for web browsing and light tasks, but it's not that responsive overall. The two small cutouts for the sound underneath the laptop is a really bad design flaw I wish more laptop manufacturers would get away from. Please just include top-facing speakers. The speakers themselves are already not great, so when they are shooting downwards it makes it even harder to hear some games even when the volume in game is at 100 and the operating system volume is also at 100. For this reason, you'll want headphones to go along with the laptop. The ports available are left side Kensington lock, RJ45 Ethernet, 2 USB A 3.2 general 1 ports, 3 5mm audio jack, right side mini display port, HDMI, USB A 3.2 general 2 port, general 2 adds charging capabilities even when the laptop is powered off, and USB-C using 3.2 general 2 behind charging port. Kudos to Acer for putting the charging port in the center behind the laptop. Acer rates the battery as being up to 6 hours, but don't expect to do heavy gaming on this laptop while you aren't plugged in. I got about 2 with some minor downtime between games. One thing I want to talk about is the design of the laptop. It does look good, but I think Acer needs to think about the type of person buying this laptop. It's going to be mostly students who want a gaming laptop that they can also use to bring to class. I don't think that gaming laptops necessarily need to look like gaming laptops. A more subtle design and the removal of any kind of LEDs on the exterior of the laptop would appeal to a much wider audience in my opinion. Overall, this laptop is an incredible deal. For what you pay, you're getting an incredible capable gaming laptop.
The laptop is very good and I'd say it's worth a buy for the price it is. You'll be getting a top-notch laptop for probably the best price per specs. The response time is really low, under 9 ms, 3 ms supposedly with the software. The keyboard is solid, thermals are pretty good, and the RTX 2060 can handle all games on high/ultra with ease. Battery is small in WH, so when gaming you'll have maybe an hour to an hour and a half in battery. Idle about 4 out of the box. I noticed some screen bleed. You'll probably get them since it's an IPS screen, and hopefully you'll get lucky and get one with a low bleed. I've had an issue with the automatic fan mode, which was revving 300 RPM up and down non-stop, audibly annoying. So to resolve it I placed it on manual mode and set the speed to a constant speed. Bad software I guess. Temperature of CPU while gaming were 75 max with GPU at 65 max. I'm sure everyone will have a different experience, but in case you have a hot laptop, undervolt it starting at 100 MV using throttle stop and limit turbo cores if needed. Overall I recommend the computer and think that the price for build quality and parts is an incredible deal.
The graphics look great and the features are really nice on this. Unfortunately the games don't run well at all. It's just a case of penny-wise dollar-dumb. The great specs at an unbelievable price are legitimately too good to be true. Games run very choppy. Even old ones like New Vegas are too much for this thing to handle. The stutter varies from tolerable to unplayable. The attached video is New Vegas being played on the laptop screen with high, not even ultra, settings. VSYNC off and max frames. I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong, but I've gone through 2 of these and neither has worked. Games play choppy on both the laptop and TV. I intended to use this with the TV, so if I had to change rooms I could just carry the laptop. I have young children ampersand I don't have the luxury of sitting in one location for long. The TVs are all 120 Hz 4K and should be able to handle this just fine either way. 90% of my time with these were spent adjusting settings. My friends are all PC gamers and they had me share my screen while we attempted to adjust various resolution and performance settings. They were at a loss. I tried calling Amazon, who were extremely awesome about it, but they couldn't help much, so they tried Acer, who were the absolute worst. Based on Acer's level of support, I would never buy one of their products again. They wouldn't answer questions, they acted annoyed and they rushed us off the phone. For now I'm just going to get an external SSD for my Xbox and save up for an MSI.
To start off, this laptop was almost perfect. Runs fast after updating everything with Windows Update and Driver Booster. Does not overheat, at least mine didn't. Only thing that got really hot was the adapter charger. The screen at first was gorgeous. The colors are amazing and the brightness is great, so watching Netflix and YouTube was great, really superior to majority of laptops with that. Playing games was fast and all on the highest settings, no issue. The only thing that ruined everything that I noticed after 3 days of using was screen bleed. First started noticing during watching a movie, bleeding in the corners and some worse than other corners. It's so noticeable that it's hard to watch anything with black screens and in the dark as well, which is pretty much most shows and movies. As you can see in the pictures, the screen bleed is bad, so I returned this laptop. Not sure if it's just the defective one I got, but it's unbearable to look at on dark screen or areas. I may order another one to see if I get better luck, because it's a known issue, but I think not everyone gets either that noticeable bleed and some lucky get none, while others like me get horrible bleed. Really would have given 5 stars if not for the terrible screen bleed, cause outside of the bleed it's a phenomenal laptop.
I spent so much time reviewing this laptop and finally decided to finance it. What a great investment. Watch the reviews from Jared's Tech and Matthew Moniz as they tell you everything you need to know on the Predator Helios 2019 and 2020. I have the 2020 with RTX 2060 and it is just the best. The only cons are battery and lack of second HDD, but the slot is there on top of the 512 SDD, which is insanely fast while gaming. Footnotes: yes, the battery sucks, but it runs great. FPS and temps on turbo must be plugged in. What Sony normally runs around 93 FPS at 69C. Bluetooth is great, definitely better range than my older Acer. I am new to PC gaming and it was a pain to download, install, set up accounts and tune the graphics on games, but I see that is just a part of PC gaming. I am used to console gaming and that is just plug and play.
Acer Predator Helios 300% Trident 500. I used to think of the Acer brand as cheap. After using both the Helios 300 and the Trident 500 side by side for several months, I no longer feel that way. The high points of the Predator experience, solid gaming machines that also do a good job of handling other tasks I frequently engage in, video production, photography processing, and academic and essay writing. The Helios 300 is the cheaper and thicker of the two machines. See photos. It is also much easier to upgrade, which almost everyone who buys this machine will need to do, unless you only plan to install a half dozen games and then not do anything else with the machine. The included 512GB storage is inadequate. Luckily, both the 300 and the 500 come with additional M.2 storage slots. It was relatively simple to upgrade the 300, but upgrading the 500 involved removing the motherboard entirely and took quite a bit of time and some specialized tools. You can pay your local computer shop to do this for you. I would recommend budgeting for a 2TB M.2 drive to be your primary partition. The screens are decent, although to be honest I cannot tell any difference between the 144 MHz response time on the 300 and the 300 MHz response time on the 500. They look exactly the same to my eyes with one exception: the 300 has 0 stuck pixels but my 500 came with 1 stuck pixel. That is mildly irritating. Acer policy is up to 2 stuck pixels, so be prepared for that possibility. The 300 is about 30% thicker than the 500. That did not bother me in the slightest. Both keyboards feel identical. They are nice and snappy and I enjoy typing on them. I do not like the gimmicky RGB on either. A lighted keyboard is nice in a dark room, but I have no use for rainbows and flashing blasts of color, so I set both machines to solid blue. Battery life is adequate. Not great. The 500 has Thunderbolt. If that's important to you, it is not present on the 300. Fan noise did not bother me on either unit, but the fans will be audible if you are playing a graphics intensive game or doing video production. This is necessary to keep the units from overheating. Acer has come a long way since I first used their products many years ago. They have really upped their engineering game. If you need an affordable multi-purpose laptop that does not require taking out a second mortgage, the 300 and the 500 are both worth taking a look at. I would shell out a little extra for at least a 1TB hard drive, and if you can afford it, go with the 2TB.